Hey NFL fans, before we dive into today's hottest stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. From NFL News Now, the Philadelphia Eagles might have stumbled onto something special, something that could reshape the future of their defense for years to come. When the team pulled the trigger to acquire Jalen Phillips ahead of the 2025 NFL trade deadline, some fans were skeptical. After all, it's not every day that a team takes a chance on a player who's been through injury setbacks and is still trying to reclaim his full potential, but sometimes a change of scenery can do wonders for an athlete, and in Phillips' case, his first game in Midnight Green might have been the spark that reignites a career that was always meant for greatness. On Monday night under the bright lights of Lincoln Financial Field, against a determined Green Bay Packers team fighting for playoff position, Phillips made his Eagles debut, and man, did he make his presence felt. From the very first defensive series, you could sense a different kind of energy in the Eagles' front seven. There was speed. There was power. There was that relentless pursuit that Philadelphia fans have always craved in their pass rushers. Phillips didn't just blend in, he stood out. He racked up 6 tackles to quarterback hits and a fumble recovery that shifted momentum right when the team needed it most. On a crucial 4th and 1 play, he exploded off the edge, disrupted the backfield, and helped stonewall the Packers' drive. It wasn't just the stats, it was the tone he set. Every snap felt like a statement. Every rush reminded everyone watching that the Eagles might have found their next defensive cornerstone. After the game, Phillips wasn't shy about how much this opportunity meant to him. He called the trade to Philadelphia possibly the best thing that's ever happened in his life. That's not just a player giving lip service to his new team, that's a man who feels revitalized, respected, and ready to prove something. And for a defense that's been searching for answers since losing key contributors like Milton Williams and Josh Sweat earlier in the season, this couldn't have come at a better time. The Eagles' defense, under Vic Fangio's steady leadership, has shown flashes of dominance, but inconsistency has plagued them. What they needed was a spark, a disruptor who could set the edge and make life miserable for opposing quarterbacks. Phillips gave them exactly that in his very first outing. ESPN's Matt Bowen broke down what makes Phillips such an intriguing fit for this Eagles unit. Standing at 6'5", Phillips has the kind of frame and wingspan that defensive coordinators drool over. He's versatile, able to play both as a traditional edge rusher and as a pocket disruptor in hybrid fronts. Bowen pointed out that injuries have somewhat limited his range over the past couple of years, but when healthy, Phillips possesses that rare combination of size, speed, and bend that can make offensive tackles sweat before the snap even happens. Over his 5-year career, he's tallied 26 sacks and 127 pressures, numbers that hint at just how dangerous he can be when used the right way. And under Fangio, who has a reputation for getting the most out of his defensive pieces, the Eagles might finally unlock Phillips' full potential. It's easy to get carried away after one game, but this debut wasn't ordinary. It felt like one of those nights where everything clicks, the kind of performance that makes coaches pull up the film and say, okay, we've got something here. The Eagles gave up a 3rd-round pick to the Miami Dolphins to make this deal happen, and while that's a decent investment, it's one that could pay off big time if Phillips continues to produce at this level. ESPN insider Jeremy Fowler mentioned that the team is already considering keeping him long-term if things go well down the stretch. That's not surprising when a player comes in, learns the system quickly, and immediately makes a difference. It's hard not to start thinking about what could come next. And let's be honest, Philadelphia needed this kind of win off the field as much as they did on it. The pass rush has been under a microscope all season, without consistent pressure up front. Even the best secondary start to crack. The departures and injuries had left holes that the Eagles' front office couldn't ignore, and the urgency they showed before the trade deadline was proof of that. Bringing in Phillips wasn't just about plugging a gap, it was about sending a message to the locker room that this team is still all in, that the Super Bowl window is still open, and that every move they make is about chasing that next championship. The chemistry Phillips showed with veterans like Brandon Graham and young talents like Nolan Smith in that first game was impressive. It didn't look forced. It looked natural. You could see the communication on the field, the adjustments at the line of scrimmage, and the excitement every time a big play was made. That kind of energy is contagious. It fuels confidence not just for the defense, but for the entire team. When your pass rush is clicking, It changes everything. Quarterbacks rush their throws, running backs hesitate. And the defensive backs can play more aggressively knowing the ball has to come out faster. Phillips brought that ripple effect with him in just one night. It's important to remember that this isn't just about one game, it's about potential, projection, and fit. Phillips is still only 26 years old, which means he's entering his prime years as an athlete. If the Eagles can keep him healthy and engaged, they might have found the long-term answer they've been searching for on the edge. Players like him don't come around often, guys who have the size to hold up against the run, the explosiveness to collapse the pocket, and the attitude to lead by example. It's one thing to be talented, it's another to have the hunger to prove yourself every single down. Phillips seems to have both. What makes this story even more compelling is the redemption arc. Phillips was once viewed as a near top 10 player at his position coming out of college. Scouts raved about his athleticism, his technique, and his upside. But injuries derailed that climb, forcing him to fight his way back from setbacks that would have broken a lot of players. That's what makes his resurgence in Philadelphia so powerful. It's not just about football, it's about resilience. The way he speaks about this opportunity, the gratitude in his voice, you can tell he's not taking a single moment for granted. For a city like Philadelphia, where fans respect toughness and authenticity above all else, Phillips fits right in. There's also a fascinating business side to this story. The Eagles are one of the best-run organizations in football, known for their calculated aggressiveness when it comes to roster construction. They understand risk and reward. If Phillips continues to perform, they'll have to make a decision: lock him up long-term or let him walk in free agency and collect a compensatory pick. Either way, they've positioned themselves smartly. But something tells me this is one of those situations where the relationship between player and team could evolve into something much bigger, because when a guy comes in, performs like that, and says all the right things, you don't let him walk away easily. One game doesn't define a career, but it can redefine a narrative. For Jalen Phillips, Monday night against the Packers might have been that turning point. He's gone from being that talented guy who couldn't stay healthy to the guy who might anchor the Eagles' defense for years to come. And for a franchise that prides itself on defensive tradition, that's a big deal. It's early, yes, but sometimes you just know when a player fits. You see it in the effort, in the way teammates rally around him, in the way the coaching staff talks about him afterward. That's what's happening here. If the Eagles continue to make a push toward the postseason and Phillips keeps wreaking havoc in opposing backfields, this trade could go down as one of the smartest midseason moves of the year. The idea that a player with so much promise, still in his prime, could finally find the right environment to thrive, it's the kind of story that fans love to see unfold. And for the Eagles, it's exactly the kind of defensive boost they needed to solidify their identity heading into the stretch run. So, yes, it's just one game, but sometimes one game tells you everything you need to know. Jalen Phillips came to Philadelphia with something to prove, and in just 4 quarters, he showed that he might not only be the answer to the Eagles' immediate pass rush problems, he might be the foundation of their defense for years to come. In a city that demands passion, toughness, and results, Phillips delivered all 3, and if this is just the beginning, then the Eagles may have found not just a short-term spark, but a long-term solution that could define the next era of Philadelphia football. Keep watching as we analyze more details about some rumors. The NFL landscape is buzzing with whispers that have now crossed into the territory of solid confirmation. MYLES GARRETT, one of the most feared pass rushers of his generation, is reportedly headed to Philadelphia, and the rumor mill suggests this is not just a casual link, but a full-blown agreement that could redefine the Eagles' defensive identity. Sources indicate that discussions between Garrett and the Eagles were intense, high-stakes negotiations, with Philadelphia positioning themselves as the team capable of providing both the financial security and the championship-caliber environment that a player of Garrett's caliber demands. Imagine a defense suddenly anchoring itself around a singular force so dominant that opposing quarterbacks will have to rethink their reads even before the snap. This is the kind of transformative potential Garrett brings, and the Eagles, long known for their aggressive, smart defensive schemes, reportedly saw in Garrett a player who not only elevates the pass rush, but also becomes a leader in the locker room, someone who demands excellence from his teammates while carrying the weight of expectation with the kind of professionalism that elite franchises crave. The buzz is that Garrett, after years of wearing down offensive lines in Cleveland, looked at multiple options, but was drawn to Philadelphia's vision, a team ready to invest not just money, but strategy and culture into making their defense an impenetrable wall. Insider chatter suggests that his arrival is meant to send a clear message to the rest of the NFC. The Eagles are serious about contending now, and they are willing to reshape their defense around a single, game-changing star. The speculation has been swirling for weeks, with every analyst on TV offering a slightly different take. But the undercurrent in every conversation points toward one thing: if Garrett indeed signs with Philadelphia, the defensive schemes we've been watching evolve slowly over the years could suddenly become aggressive, dynamic, and utterly terrifying for any offense unlucky enough to face them. Consider the matchups. Quarterbacks who have spent weeks meticulously studying film on the Eagles will now be forced to factor in Garrett's presence on every single down. The pressure he brings is not just about sacks, it's about how he collapses pockets, disrupts timing, and forces offenses into mistakes before the ball even leaves the quarterback's hand. Rumors suggest that Garrett is not the kind of player content to simply rack up personal stats. He wants the impact, the legacy, and the kind of spotlight reserved for game changers. Philadelphia's coaching staff reportedly pitched the idea of a defensive identity makeover centered on Garrett, emphasizing that he wouldn't just be another cog in a system, but the linchpin of a renewed defensive philosophy. In conversations off camera, league insiders hint that the Eagles' management was willing to make substantial concessions in contract structure and incentives to lure him, understanding that a player of his caliber is worth a level of commitment beyond the usual headline numbers. The narrative building here is irresistible for fans. MYLES GARRETT, the anchor, the terror on the edge, stepping into a city known for passionate football culture and raising the stakes in a division that has never had a shortage of challengers, even in casual chatter among fans. The excitement is palpable. Social media timelines are already filled with what-if scenarios. Garrett lining up opposite Fletcher Cox, potentially pairing with the developing linebacker corps that now has to adjust to his presence, and the ripple effects on scheme flexibility and coverage patterns that allow the Eagles to be unpredictable. Analysts and commentators are feeding the frenzy, dissecting hypothetical alignments where Garrett's skill set not only generates sacks, but forces offenses to alter their game plans entirely. And let's not forget the psychological dimension. Reports suggest that Garrett's very reputation, built on relentless pursuit, physical dominance, and a knack for delivering in critical moments, instills fear even before plays begin. Opposing teams reportedly spend extra hours reviewing his tendencies, trying to anticipate his moves. And that mental edge is as valuable as any stat line. The Eagles, in this emerging narrative, appear to be betting on that edge, banking on Garrett's presence to elevate the performance of everyone around him. Rumors circulating from league insiders hint that the team views him as a culture setter, someone who enforces accountability while embodying the competitive intensity that Philadelphia fans demand. Every offseason trade and signing carries risk, but the chatter suggests that Garrett's signing would be less of a gamble and more of a calculated move designed to signal intent. The Eagles are here to dominate defensively, and they're doing it by anchoring the unit around one of the most feared pass rushers in the game. The speculation also touches on the nuances of fit. Garrett's playing style is aggressive yet disciplined, and sources claim the Eagles' defensive scheme has been subtly tweaked to maximize his impact. It's said that the coaching staff spent weeks simulating potential scenarios, aligning gap assignments, blitz packages, and rotational depth to ensure that when Garrett hits the field, he can wreak havoc while minimizing exposure to double teams and misalignments. This level of planning underscores how seriously the Eagles are taking the potential acquisition. The rumor feeds the imagination of fans, envisioning a defensive line that can not only pressure the quarterback, but also force offenses into predictable patterns that the secondary can exploit. Garrett's addition is being painted as the missing piece in a puzzle the Eagles have been assembling for years, a piece that transforms good defensive play into game-altering dominance. Off the field, there's chatter about the leadership void he could fill, mentoring younger players while setting the standard for professionalism and work ethic. Philadelphia, historically known for cultivating tough, no-nonsense defenses, reportedly sees Garrett as the perfect embodiment of that ethos. Every report and insider tidbit reinforces the idea that this is more than a signing. It's a statement, a declaration that the Eagles are willing to go all in to redefine their identity in the league. Rumors even extend to broader league implications should Garrett officially join Philadelphia. Whispers suggest that rival teams are already recalculating their draft strategies, free agent targets, and game day approaches. Offensive coordinators are reportedly revisiting protection schemes, and quarterbacks in the division may begin studying Garrett film in unprecedented detail. The talk is that his impact wouldn't be confined to individual stats. It would reverberate throughout the NFC East and beyond. Analysts are crafting scenarios where Garrett becomes a generational defensive disruptor, forcing tactical shifts that echo into subsequent seasons. The excitement is contagious. Fans imagine a new era where the Eagles' defense is not just solid, but intimidating, where the mere presence of Garrett alters the psychology of the game before a single ball is thrown. Social media, podcasts, and sports shows are all part of this ripple effect, feeding the narrative of a high-profile acquisition that could define the trajectory of the franchise for years to come. The chatter around the league emphasizes one point consistently: Myles Garrett in Philadelphia is not just a rumor, it's a potential turning point. Of course, as with any rumor, there's a layer of intrigue and suspense. Details are still emerging, and insiders caution that until paperwork is filed and official statements are made, anything could change. But the undercurrent is clear. Myles Garrett, a generational talent with a reputation that precedes him, is rumored to have given the green light to a move that could reshape not just a team, but an entire division. The speculative energy surrounding this potential signing is exactly the type of story that electrifies fans, fuels heated debates, and dominates sports news cycles for weeks. It's a narrative that blends elite talent, strategic acumen, and cultural fit into a compelling, almost cinematic arc. And as whispers solidify into credible reports, the excitement only intensifies, leaving fans, analysts, and rivals alike on edge, waiting for the confirmation that could mark the beginning of a new defensive era in Philadelphia, anchored by none other than Myles Garrett, the pass rusher who has long been feared and now could become the cornerstone of a team on the rise. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and share it with your fellow NFL fans. Stay tuned for more updates, only here on NFL News Now.